guys, welcome back to Momina's Mixed Plate, and today I have Sabah Bano in, well, not my studio, well, in her studio on Zoom. And I hope you guys have watched this show called Indian Matchmaking, because today's segment is all about Rishta Aunties and the detriments that they have caused for decades upon decades upon decades in our society across South Asia. And there are going to be some interesting topics we'll be discussing. If you haven't watched Indian Matchmaking, please stop watching the video now because there will be spoilers ahead. And what we have today is that we're going to be sharing our experiences with Rishta Aunties, because Sabah Bano has been very vocal about her her run-ins with Rishta Aunties. So hello, Sabah.
Hello, Momina. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am good. I'm good, you know.
And I believe you finished Indian Matchmaking.
Yes. So I told Momina that I'd stopped because I was like, I'm just not really big into reality TV. I feel like it's still kind of something here in Pakistan where like we don't really care about other people. But when you told me like we should talk about it and I finished it, once I ramped up again, it was very easy to like get sucked in because it's a nightmare. It
is a nightmare. I feel like Auntie Sima, I had too many opinions about her, and I just got like this roller coaster. I was on a roller coaster right throughout because I was like, I want to kill you. What are you doing? Like any woman that was outgoing, that was independent, was like,
yeah. And what I found amazing, first of all, what I loved about Sima from Mumbai, her full title, is that this is what I'm going to do from now. I'm like Sabah from Pindi. But she, right? And is that she would like glaze over when any woman was talking to her. She'd just be like, they want too much. And all these women asked for was like respect, kindness, and like, and she was like, it's impossible. We can't do it. Crazy.
No, and then you have like people like Akshay, whose moms are like, we need a flexible girl. Like, what the hell does a flexible girl mean? Like, does it mean that like if you want her to make her do like pocha taki, and then she'll be like, yeah, I'm flexible enough to do that. And if you're gonna send her, okay, today I want you to get pregnant, and then you get pregnant. Like, what kind of what is flexible even?
And I found it really interesting because I'll say like you know, kind of being, I feel like I could kind of count you in as also third culture, having lived in different places and whatnot, and like with Pakistan as a home base. It's interesting that even the American like desis were like the one guy's parents were like, we need a girl who's accommodating, and it's like, what the fuck is we can cuss? Can we cuss?
Yeah, you can.
What the fuck is accommodating? They kept describing marriage as compromise, accommodating, and like you need to be willing to quote unquote go with the flow, even if it means moving to Timbuktu and dropping everything you care about.
Yeah, but also I feel like yes, there is like, I mean, in like I think in any relationship there is a certain amount of compromise and adaptability that is required, but I think it goes both ways. I think in today's world it is very hard to expect just the woman to be constantly compatible, constantly compromising, constantly like, you know, crush. I mean, like every woman today, not every woman, but like, I mean, most women today have aspirations. They are working, they are going to colleges, they are educated, they have a point of view. I mean, and there are women who don't want to have a point of view, and it's completely okay, and they're okay with kind of, you know, going with that flow. And you don't know how you're going to react either. But off the bat, if you tell someone that we don't know if our son's going to be in Lahore, Karachi, Islamabad, New York, London, but wherever the hell he is, you have to drop everything and move.
Yeah, because you're the wife.
Yeah.
Like that's simply it. And that's what I found. Like, I feel like we didn't see this as much on the show. But as Pakistanis, like Rishta Aunties, a very big thing is like, we need a doctor, we need a lawyer, we need an engineer. And once you're married, it's like, oh, the women in our family don't work. What? Why did you even?
They'll have those, okay, they can have those demands that a girl should be like, you know, should be foreign educated, but want to be homely. This is the best thing. We want a modern yet homey girl. Modern, that means, what does modern mean? Like, I mean, if you want a homey girl, like a traditional girl, that's like, you're asking for a housewife. Like you're saying that, okay, we want somebody who's a housewife, but you're saying that we want a foreign educated girl who's modern, who can walk with the times, but yet not do any of those things and stay at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't understand. I've never understood that. Like,
yeah, and I think when you mentioned Akshay, right? Like his cousin literally was like, so you want a modern woman who's traditional? And he was like, traditional within reason. But then when he met a woman who was like, I can't wait to get married and I just want to work, right? Which is again something I'm sure a lot of Pakistani women can relate to, being told their whole lives that once you're married, you're free, right? Do whatever you want. And he was shocked. He was like, who's going to be home with the kids? Who's going to raise the kids? So basically, when you mentioned Akshay, like, as you were saying, it's like they want someone who's modern and traditional. And then he meets this like babe who's like, the minute they're alone, she's like, look, when I get married, I just want to be able to be a person. Like, I want to be my own person and I want to work. And Akshay's floored. He's like, who's going to raise our kids? And I just found that, like, I don't know you, like, I don't know together, like you're living in a house with like 50 relatives. Maybe you could make a community out of it, but he was appalled.
Yeah,
that would happen.
and apparently, like, I mean, you were saying yesterday as well that like he broke off the engagement right after the show as well.
Yeah, and they got engaged, and which I think is like another incredibly Pakistani thing, which is like, hey, this girl meets none of my criteria, but she's banging. So we're going to do this anyway. And once the rukhsati's done, she's just going to, fall in line, do what is expected of her. Like, I mean, honestly, how many divorces do we know where girls like, I married the guy I love, and the minute we got married, he was like a different person who suddenly like wanted a completely different type of woman. And I think that was pretty.
It's a massive disconnect, I feel, is that, I mean, women in our generation were raised to be independent. Like our parents made sure we went to like the best schools, the best colleges around the world, not just in Pakistan, made sure that we were independent financially, emotionally, XYZ. But I feel that the men weren't raised that way. The boys in our generation weren't raised that way. They weren't raised that, oh, everybody's going to have equal opportunities. Like, I mean, so when you're kind of going into a marriage, or if you have those demands and you're you're not compatible or you're not flexible because you do have those demands, that you're like, okay, I want someone who has similar interests as I do, because I do have a life. I am coming in with a life of my own. Like, I have my own work, I have my friends, I have my family, and like we have to kind of merge this together. But boys in this generation want women like their mothers. They want a wife who's exactly like their mother. It's like a weird Oedipian complex that they all have, that the moment a girl is like slightly more like, okay, like like a friend of mine said that I would not like if my wife traveled by herself. Like, she can't just get up and go for work on a work trip. Like, she has to be like, and if she has to work, she has to be home before I do. And I'm like, I know you're standing on the sidelines cheering me on. Like, you're the type of friend who cheers me on all of my accomplishments, my failures, everything. You're there. But with your wife, you're like, no, that's not okay. That's not something that is allowed.
And imagine like what you just asked for, basic friendship, right? Like, fuck the relationship and marriage. A friend is someone who's like, you got a promotion? Hell yeah. You got to work late because you're about to kick ass. And by the way, in today's economy, I don't care what country you're in, you need 2 incomes to like keep it going. I think a big problem in Pakistan is generational wealth creates and again, we're talking about a very privileged class. Please understand for the YouTubers out there, but like generational wealth creates laziness. And I think we saw a lot of that on the show. Like, you had a guy like Akshay, you had that jewelry designer guy, and they were just like, we don't put in effort. Like, they were like annoyed that they had to like be anything other than just male and alive. And I feel like in Pakistan, our criteria for eligible bachelor is male and breathing. Like, done. It's a 10 out of 10. Nailed it. Because I'll be honest with you, sometimes when I see like, I'll meet a couple, you have this like dynamic, kick-ass woman, and then just this like milk dud.
It's like a living corpse. It's like just like
they're just like,
yeah. I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I've seen that with like, you see that happen to your own friends at times, and you're like, what did you like? There are a few couples that I look at, I'm like, I don't know how this works, and I'm really happy that it has worked for this long. Clearly, something is working because, like, literally, the woman in the relationship is actually dynamic. Like, you can have a conversation with her, and I mean, in our group of friends, it's not the kind like and same. I believe in your group of friends as well. It's not like once your friends get married, you segregate. Like, if you go to a dinner, it's not like the boys are sitting on one side and the girls are sitting on the other. You're kind of like together in the same kind of like sitting on the same table or in the same room and kind of conversing with each other. And I would see these boys and could not talk, could not like, I mean, if I would say, hi, how are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I would say, like, I was gonna say, I mean, it's kind of related, but you know, I recently got extremely pissed about a Rishta situation because a girl who I would say is even more, at least openly modern and liberal than I am, slightly, was being sort of presented to a family that I was explicitly told would find me like disastrous. But that I myself looked at the boy and I was like, no way. But then even this mediocre person was like available to a girl I would say is even out of my league. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's like there's very much a culture of this boy just being by nature a boy is the prize. And like all women are just lucky enough to be picked, to get married. And that's a poison in our culture because it literally means that we have to work so hard and we still are like nothing in a way in this like matchmaking. I hope that makes sense. But it's
back to like the point of like having a preference. Like boys' family can have like XYZ preferences. Oh, we want like a girl, like, you know, again, like in the words of Auntie Sima, slim, trim, fair, slim, trim, tall. You know, I mean, those are the characteristics that you're being judged upon. And like, oh, we want a lawyer, we want a doctor, like you said. But if, God forbid, if a girl says that I want to like marry like a businessman or like a lawyer or like I want to make sure that like the guy's like settled abroad, like gold digger.
Gold digger. Immediately gold digger. Immediately gold digger.
Gold digger.
And it's and what I find incredible is so there was actually a tweet that went viral, just a couple, I'm sure you saw it, and it was something along the lines of like, oh, these Pakistani girls are gonna leave you, they're all gold diggers, da da da. So I was like, okay, so how about I hit you with you're all womb diggers. You tell me how many, okay, so we're in our early 30s, so we know, I know so many women, long-term relationships, dumped, and then their boyfriends marry like 20, 21-year-olds, right? Some girls who haven't finished school, whatever, da, 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 da. So that's why I was like, you guys are womb diggers. You marry children so that you can like, what? Like, why are Pakistani men not held for a different standard for routinely marrying young girls who are 10 to 15 years younger than them? And we're all just supposed to be like, yeah, that's cool, you know, but we're gold diggers for wanting to marry someone our same age that has a bit of stability. Like, ridiculous, I think.
I agree with you. And this culture is, I mean, it's not something that like men were born and this is something that instinctively came to them. Obviously it's nurtured into them that, oh, a man needs to be settled, a woman needs to be younger than a man. Like, God forbid that in our society, I mean, we're not talking about religion here, because I mean, if we talk about religion, like all of this crap that happens, they'll probably just go out the window, right? The point is that like, if God forbid, like a older woman wants to like, you know, like if like my boyfriend is younger than me, cradle snatcher, you know?
Yeah. Desperate. Couldn't find someone at the time. The guy's using her, da 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 da. Immediately. Like, women are literally, I mean, look at how beautiful. I love women. Women are fucking beautiful. They're inspiring. They're brilliant. Pakistani women, I give so many props. And yet we're equated to like milk, lollipops, nothing. We're just used up, dried goods. I don't know. It's kind of nuts. And I was going to say, like you mentioned, Sima from Mumbai, like always started with, they're the great candidate because they're fair, slim, and tall. And like look at this. I mean, right now you're talking about colorism. It's like at the top of a lot of, you know, things we've had to reckon with. And fair. I mean, this show, like, first of all, I have to give props to India. I'm just going to say it. Like, I think it's awesome they're getting their own Netflix stuff out there. And in a way, I'm glad that this like peeled back this curtain over the Rishta process because it's literally what it is. But the color, the fair obsession, and the thing is, I myself have been told multiple times that like the way I look would hinder me from ever meeting someone in the Rishta way. That like I just don't meet the criteria of looks. You know, like I'm a plus size woman. I'm not fair, and I guess I talk. So these things have always been
like, I talk.
The one character I want to say, person on the show, I was telling Momina that I really I saw myself in was Ankita, the like fashion designer from Mumbai who was like on the thick. By the way, everyone was like, her looks will never get her anywhere. I was like, she is like a pretty attractive woman. I'm a little confused as to why everyone's acting like she's been.
And this entire, and especially if we talk about colorism, I mean, as a kid, like when I was much younger, obviously my mom was like a freaking force to reckon with because she would just shut down women. Like, because my mom's like green eyes, fair skin, light brown hair. Like, that's my mom. And so they're like, fair and lovely lagao, bleach karao, falani, Stillman's cream lagao, inki rang gore karo. And my mom was like, no. And like, we were really young and I was like, no, I don't want to be like, and you would see like, and like, I know people who did that. I know girls in my own class who did the same thing. They would get all these bleaches and God knows what. Now they're gray. Their skin is paper thin. They don't have good skin. They have it's just paper thin and gray. Like, it's gross.
You're literally basing a criteria of how two people can build a life together on the genetics of my skin. Like, I'm with you. Like, I have Kashmiri grandmothers. My grandmother's sisters. They are blue-eyed and blonde-haired, okay? And my other side of the family is Baloch, so you pretty much have that also. And, like, we're not. And my mom, like, her mother was the only one to marry a non-Kashmiri. So, like, their line that produced us are babes like me who look funny, like, you know, who look like your average person walking down the street. And I think that's great. But I grew up in the States. So I grew up in a very large Pakistani community. And I think you become kind of like insular as is, and you just try to celebrate each other. So I say I did escape a lot of the like not being fair skinned thing. But when I moved here, you know, in my late 20s, I was like bombarded with it of like, you know, don't go in the sun, blah, 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 blah. You know, you're already dark. And I was like, first of all, I'm fucking dark because I am Pakistani. I am South Asian. Like, why are you building this ideal that we will not reach? And I'm not, again, I'm so like about this PC shit. Like, there are Pakistanis who are like fair skinned as well. Don't come for me in the comments.
Olive skin. They're called white-skinned people. They're still not called white people. They're not white. They're not Caucasians. They're still South Asians. They're just olive skin tone.
Yeah, the thing is, it's all brought down to genetics. It's all brought down to that. And I think that being a criteria, and it's being said over and over again, I wonder, like, what are white people, Black people, like other people watching this series on Netflix, like, thinking about the constant fairness? Like, I hope they understand that they're talking about skin color and not just like Snow White fair or some shit, like when she looks in the mirror. But they're legitimately saying that to look like you come like a typical South Asian emoji is wrong. You need to look like the white girl emoji. And it's like, what?
Yeah, it's
crazy.
Okay, now tell me some of your crazy Rishta Aunty stories, because I have one or two to share, but like I know that you have had like some quite epic moments with.
I've had a weird one, like that was like, Auntie, you were actually crazy. So mine are also like more like getting angry, but one was kind of crazy. This happened a couple weeks ago. My mom comes running to me, okay? She's like, I need your bio data. I need photos. Now, again, like Ankita, I've been told by family members I'm fat and I'm not attractive, so they can't help me find anyone. So this is very rare. So thank you. I think so too. I'm like, fuck y'all. Like, I think we're hot as shit. So then my mom, but then she showed, like, I was like, okay, fine, whatever. Like, who cares? If you want to do it, be my guest. Yeah. And so then the auntie calls back and is like, listen, your daughters are beautiful. She sent my sisters as well. But I'm going to need you guys to meet me up. I need to meet them, see them in person to confirm that they're the ones in the photo. And my mom was like, why? And she was like, you don't know how many times I've sent boys to some girls and it's not the person in the photo. So I just got to make sure. And my mom was like, well, there's a pandemic, so I'm not going to send my daughters out to meet you. She's like, just roll up to a parking lot. They just have to get out of the car, wave at me, and then we're good to go. And my mom was like, no.
That is,
and so that was pretty weird. And then another one, I mean, sorry, I'm trying to think.
Smile and wave, boys, smile and wave.
Yeah, she did.
Creepy.
And I was like, she's literally asking for like proof of life in order for us to like move further into this, I guess. Another one that was that happened around the same time is, so there was these like dudes in the US and they had like very modern leanings in their photos. So I guess they were like, oh, okay, Sarah and Sabah might be down. And they came back to us with the moms, of course, the moms first, being like, okay, cool, we're gonna get our sons involved. When their sons went through our social media, because we're both comedians, so we have public Instagram profiles, they came back with, no, they both went to the Orith March and we're just not into that. Cool. And my mom told the Rishta Aunty that, like, you know what?
So
we're done here.
Demeaning that can happen to a woman, but the moment you turn it around and you flip it, I'm like, no, I'm not into. You have very high standards. Nobody can meet your standard. Nobody's good enough for you. No one is good enough for you.
And the thing is like, so when we've told this story, right? Like, you have some people who are like, well, good riddance, because that's a good litmus test, right? But then you have people in our family who are like, oh my God, remove those posts. And it's like, you think it's somehow bad that we got rejected by people who take issue with women's rights? Like, I think, me. Like, if anything, I think it's, you know, I think girls in our country look at these rishtas from abroad as like, maybe they'll be more liberal or maybe, and it's like, yo, no, they over there, it's the exact same shit. Like, if you grow up in a,
it's worse.
It's worse. Yeah, it's actually worse.
Yeah, like, I know. Truly. I remember, like, I was again like, do you remember that, like in the show in like Indian Matchmaking, you know that Nadia, the first date she goes on in New York, I went on a date like that in New York years and years and years ago when I was, I think fresh out of college, and someone over there was like, oh my God, you need to meet this guy, like, you know, I think he was like an investment banker or a lawyer or something. Like, he was doing really well for himself. And I go to like, I think I'm in Midtown somewhere. Like, we'll go for like sushi or something, and we're at the restaurant. I get there before him, and anyways, he gets there. Silence. Okay. And I'm like, oh, so he's like, oh, what are you doing here? I was like, oh, you know, I graduated, I think a year or two before that. And I was like, oh, I just came. I was like, I come out to New York in the summer to see all my college friends. And like, oh, did you come with your parents? I'm like, no, they're back home. They're like not here right now. And they're like, you came alone to America? I'm like, yeah, bro, I studied here for 4 years. And then I was in London for like a semester. I can't travel by myself. And then I was like,
yeah, my parents didn't come with me to university either.
Yeah, not like they came to university with me. They dropped me, made my bed, unpacked my stuff, gave me money, packed me on the back, and said, "On your own now. See ya later."
Yeah.
And then
job might see you on ETH.
And then I kind of like wasn't really interested. I didn't really like kind of feel a spark, or didn't really feel interested to kind of carry it on. So I like told like my aunt or whoever had set me up and asked me to go for lunch with this guy. She's like, oh, he really liked you. I'm like, yeah, I did not really care for him. Like, I'm not interested. Like, no, Mike, you're very stuck. You're very high standard. Yeah. You have to say yes to someone. I'm like, I just graduated from college. I literally just graduated. Like, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, just marry the first guy that comes in.
You know, when we moved to Pakistan, I was 24. My sister was 26. So as you can imagine, that was already like 24, 26, moving to another country with parents, not their husbands. And my aunts and my nanny were like, not okay with this. It was very upsetting to them. But it's not something my parents had ever really put much thought into, or really, I mean, I think they just assumed that we would meet someone at some point and it would be fine. But I think they were surrounded by this like they're not married, they're not married, they're not married, that they even went crazy. And then a couple of people came over, and a lot of times it would be just the mom. And so then I think about like the fourth time, my dad was just like, I've had it. Like, why am I not going and seeing their son first? Like, so from now on, unless I meet the guy first, like, we're not doing this. And so it never happened again. Like, I'm not even kidding. If you tell any Rishta Auntie, like, well, we'd like to see the boy first, they're going to be like, get out of here. You're asking for too much. But meanwhile, puppies, chachis, khalas, masis can come rolling through my house to assess me up and down. Like, that's so crazy.
I know.
We once had a woman come in, and we live in like a post-partition sort of, house, whatever. It's like kind of old school Westridge. Everyone's a million years old in my neighborhood. So like she comes in, literally looks around our room and runs out. Literally was like, I'm sorry, I gotta go. And like ran out. And like, like we can laugh now, but like imagine if you or I went to someone's house and we're like, bye. Like, fuck no, you don't do that to anyone. You don't even do that when you're like meeting up. You know how it is, like when you're styling someone and you walk into a showroom and you're like, you can't even do that there. So it's like, how do you do that in someone's house? Such a bitch.
No, I mean, this one woman came to, I think my mom like kind of had it, like I think only once this Rishta Aunty type woman was allowed to come to the house. And I drove her away in 15 minutes. I was like, bro, get out. Like, I cannot deal with your... So I told my mom, I was like, I'll meet this woman. I'm not going to wear shalwar kameez because I don't wear shalwar kameez generally. I mean, I'll wear it when I do, but I am in like either a tank top or a jeans and a t-shirt. And like, that's how they should see me. And that they should know that, like, like, that's how the girl is.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I was like, I showered, I came down, I sat with her, and she's like, oh, so beta, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, this is what I do, this is where I work, and और फिर क्या करते हो? And I was like, I like to travel, I have a lot of friends here, I like to go out a lot. So I was like, yeah, that's how I fill up my time. And she's like, शादी के बाद भी you will work? I was like, yeah. Families को अच्छा नहीं लगता कि अगर लड़कियां शादी के बाद काम करें. I just got so irritated. I was like, जी मैं तो करूँगी काम. And my mom like is side eye glaring at me like, and I'm like, I'm not gonna say that I'm gonna like not work after like I get married, because I am gonna work, because I probably will be like much better at what I'm doing than whoever I'm getting married to.
Yeah, I was like, what's the alternative? Like, you just want me to sit at home and like stare at me, or like you want to take my attendance multiple times a day that I'm still like roaming around?
It's funny because it's like when you're bringing in a girl, there are very different standards. Or when it's your own daughter, it's very different standards. Like your own daughter, you want the world to be given to her, but when you're bringing a girl, it must be flexible, must be this, must not work, must be foreign educated but wants to stay at home, loves to travel but will not leave the house without the husband. Like, hates kids but will produce 1,500 of them just because we want like 1,500. Like, the mother's producing the child, the grandmother's keeping the name. What logic is like? I don't get it.
My sister was introduced to this dude, super like cute. My sister's quite tall. Like, she's like you, tall.
I met her.
Yeah, tall, slim, whatever. He's like a hot guy. He's Australian. Like, it's great. Like, whatever those implications are, very chill, very cool. And he's like, and I travel a lot for work, which I really enjoy. And Sarah was like, oh my God, that's awesome because I love to travel. And he was like, well, someone has to be home with my parents.
This happened to a friend of mine as well. A similar thing.
Yeah.
Like, the guy was super well educated. She was working, and then he was like, I don't think I can have you working because, like somebody has to take care of my parents. And she's like, I'm not your maid. And eventually they got divorced, but like.
Well, there you go. Right then and there.
I think we're going to have to wrap it up for today, but I think this has been quite informative, guys. I hope you guys got something interesting to take back. Like, make sure, I know that these Rishta Aunties are just the scum of the earth, in my opinion, like legit scum of the earth. Like, it's just another level of like the degradation of society that they project, and they don't, like, please be yourselves. If you had like some interesting Rishta Auntie stories, let me know in the comments below, and we'll do another segment soon and kind of take this conversation forward. It is really important to kind of be yourself, guys. Like, marriage is not the end of it. I mean, yes, it's amazing to have a partner and it's amazing to like share life with someone, but it's better to be in a relationship that suits you rather than being in a relationship just for the sake of being in a relationship. There's more detrimental for yourself and for your family's health and for everybody else around you's mental health if you're in a detrimentally bad marriage or relationship. Even friendships are toxic in the same way marriages can be toxic. So please don't change yourselves. Stay strong. And thank you, Sabah, for taking out the time and doing this. I think we exceeded our time limit by a freaking landslide. And I will hopefully have you back on and we will continue this conversation. And you guys don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you can be part of the Momina's Mixed Plate family. And I'll see you next time. Take care.